Can the Hokies complete the season sweep over the Cavaliers on Saturday?
What do the women have to do to secure a spot in the NCAA tournament?
Softball season is off and rolling after a phenomenal start to their season. Do they have what it takes to make a national run?
We are talking all that and more on today's edition of the 3304 Sports Tip-Off Show. Welcome in to the Moss Arts Center. I'm Robbie Ackerly alongside Landon Weaver. Happy Valentine's Day to those who celebrate. And I'm sure, Landon, you couldn't think of a more romantic place than to be right here with me in the Moss Arts Center
Absolutely,
talking some Hokie sports.
I love you. I love Hokies basketball, and I love Virginia Tech in general. But you know what? Today is Valentine's Day, and love is in the air this weekend, but not so much for the Hokies as they face off against in-state rivals UVA here in Blacksburg tomorrow. Let's talk about what went down in South Bend first, though, Robbie.
Yeah, look, if you would have told me, Landon, that early in the season Virginia Tech was down 20 on the road, I would have told you this game's over. But this Hokies team, they've gotten so much more confident throughout the season. It really shows how they've improved throughout the year. You know, early on, the chemistry wasn't really there. It looked like towards the later spots of the game, they were kind of not clicking on offense. But then they're in South Bend, Indiana, and they come back on the road against Notre Dame. Let's take you through some highlights from that game. The game opened up with a huge slam from Toby Lawal off an alley-oop. Notre Dame Irish answered quickly with their own dunk. From there, Notre Dame just hit bucket after bucket to jump out to a huge 18-4 lead in the first half. However, the Hokies were not going down without a fight as Jaden Young hit a huge layup to start a run for the Hokies. And later on, Tyler Johnson hits a three to cut the lead to just 5. A last few second triple by Marcus Burton puts the Irish up 7 at half in the second half. And a three-pointer by Marcus Burton really put the Irish up 10. And it looked like it was going to be all Notre Dame in this one. However, Virginia Tech continued to fight, and a Toby Lawal jam kept the game within 7. And here come the Hokies as Jaden Shoot buries his first triple to put it by 5. From here, it looked like the pendulum had swung in the direction of Virginia Tech as Brandon Rexsteiner hit a massive 3 to cut the lead to 2. Later in the game, the Hokies, another triple. This time it's Ben Burnham to give Virginia Tech a 4-point lead with 2 minutes to go. And they closed it out from there with some big free throws. Landon 65-63, the final score in South Bend, Indiana. A huge win for this Virginia Tech men's basketball.
Indeed it was. Indeed it was. You think about a team that is so young, had such a rough start to the season, and being able to come back from 20 down in South Bend, that doesn't normally happen for teams like Virginia Tech. And it's really a testament to Mike Young and his coaching staff being able to tell these players, hey, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to get better. And players like Poteet, Lawal, Burnham, coaching the younger guys up, like Ben Hammond, like Tyler Johnson, who are studs, by the way. Absolutely love their play. And now you have a big game this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it speaks to Mike Young's coaching, how much this team has exceeded their expectations in the preseason. But like you said, that game's in the past. And now let's look towards the future because Virginia Tech has a huge opportunity. And I guess so does Virginia, as another edition of the Commonwealth Clash is in store for this Saturday.
Yeah. It's a big game for both teams. You know, UVA doesn't want to get swept. Virginia Tech wants to sweep UVA, something that hasn't happened in a very long time. I think they can do it. So do the players, but it's all about what happens on Saturday. They'll want to give Blacksburg a Valentine's Day gift. Yeah. And that's the future. But this edition of the Commonwealth Clash has some historic implications. And for more on that, here are our own Tucker Terry and Hayden Tolbert.
Hokies and the Cavaliers have faced off 56 times right here in Castle Coliseum. The Hokies came out on top in 31 of those occasions, and many of which came down to the very last shot.
Yeah, you're completely right, Tucker. We've had some historic battles between these two teams, even when Virginia was a blue blood in college basketball. But let's go back in time to 2015, where Justin Anderson hit a game-winning shot to keep the Cavs undefeated 50-47.
With that shot, Anderson tallied his 12th point as he scored 10 of those 12 in the final 7:03 in the game.
Here's another crazy game for you, Tucker. Just 2 years later in 2017, on the visiting side, 12th-ranked UVA and Virginia Tech went into 2 overtimes.
UVA guard London Parantis drives in for the game-winning layup, and as it hits each side of the rim, it gets stuck on the back of the rim. So what does that mean? Jump ball and possession arrow goes to Virginia Tech. So let's move across court to the next possession with 5 seconds left. Hokies guard Seth Allen has a chance to win it, and he shoots a 3, and it doesn't fall. So a second overtime is to be played. So Virginia Tech's Seth Allen has another chance to take down the Wahoos, and he gets a closer shot from behind the restricted area, and he gets it to go and takes down number 12 Virginia 80-78.
There can't be another game winner, right? Well, not so, as we fast forward to 2020 and Mike Young's first installment of the Commonwealth Clash.
Virginia legend Kihei Clark hits a nasty step back on Jalen Cone to hit a game-winning 3 to win in Castle 56-53. The Hokies have a chance to complete the season sweep for the first time since 2010 on February 15th at 2 p.m. in Castle Coliseum. With my partner Tucker Terry, this is Hayden Talbert. Back to you guys.
The men weren't the only team enjoying success against the Hoos this season. The women split their season series but picked up a huge dub in John Paul Jones Arena last Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was a huge victory for the Hokies and sort of a must-win scenario if VT wanted to stay on the bubble, especially after that crushing loss to Syracuse. That was huge, and there were some huge performances from the starters, including 19 points and 9 rebounds for Karis Baker, who's just been playing so confidently. She's really coming to her own as a key member of this Virginia Tech Hokies team.
She was on fire, and so was the rest of the team. And with that, let's take a look at how it happened. Down 6-7 early, Karis Baker gets the Hokies going with a tray. Later on in the first, Matilda Eck extends the lead to 6 with a long 2. Carly Wenzel starts the second quarter off with a strong drive and finish plus the foul, 23-16. And here goes Mackenzie Nelson with a nice floater in the paint. It's all Hokies at halftime, 46-28. Deep in the third quarter, Layla Wells connects from the left wing, 61-40. Virginia Tech leads. Carly Wenzel finishes off the day with yet another 3, 87-62. Hokies crush the Hoos in Charlottesville. Robbie, let's take a look at the three-point disparity real quick. 63% from downtown for Virginia Tech compared to 12.5% for UVA. That's 5/8 compared to 1/8. Wild difference.
12.5%? You got that
12.5%.
That's unbelievable. And Virginia Tech, of course, shooting well over the average with 63%. Anytime there's a crazy stat like that, especially when it's three-point shooting percentage, and a team just dominates a statistic, you feel like that team always comes out on top. And, of course, when UVA shoots 12.5% from the three-point line, they're not going to get it done. Not
at all. It was 12 three-pointers for Virginia Tech, 2 for UVA. That's a 30-point difference right there. And the scoreline showed. But that wasn't the only game that Virginia Tech had this week. They took on the UNC Tar Heels in a close loss, 67-62 in Chapel Hill, yet another squandered chance against the ranked opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a squandered chance because this game was tied really late in the game.
Yeah.
So Virginia Tech had a chance to win it. They just couldn't hold on. And against teams like UNC, of course, you want to pick up these wins. The losses necessarily don't kill you because they are ranked opponents and such a close loss. Maybe even it's a moral victory for this team. But as these ranked losses keep piling up, it kind of gets aggravating as a Virginia Tech fan, especially when 5 of the 7 losses for Megan Duffy and her squad have been to ranked opponents. So they've really struggled when it comes to playing against the big dogs, and maybe that'll play into this bracketology later.
Yeah, sometimes the team is able to step up against ranked opponents, and sometimes they're not. And you'd think that Virginia Tech, after some time, would be able to pick up a win against them after playing. I mean, the ACC is loaded with talent. All you need is one, and that really helps your chances in the bracket. So I don't see it much as a moral victory just because of how late in the season it is. But things can change, and, Virginia Tech's a good squad, and still 4 games to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, losses like Syracuse hurt, but wins against Georgia Tech definitely help. Don't just take my word for it. Our very own Thomas Howlett is breaking down the bubble and where Virginia Tech's women's hoop stands in terms of March. Thomas?
With the college basketball season hitting the home stretch, it is time for us to turn our eyes upon March by reviewing some key points from Joe Lunardi and Charlie Cream's bracketology. Kicking things off with the men's tournament, we have the bubble. At the moment, we have Georgia against San Diego State and BYU against Wake Forest. They're sitting in the play-ins for the 11 seeds in the South and East regions. One of the most surprising teams on the bubble right here in the last 4 out is UC San Diego. They're the Tritons out of the Big West Conference, and at the moment, Lunardi favors the UC Irvine Anteaters to claim the automatic bid. But both teams sit at 21-4 overall and 11-2 in conference. Both of them are very sound mid-majors, so do not be surprised if the Big West sends 2 teams to the big dance. And as we glance along the rest of the teams here on the bubble, there are a total of 4 teams from the Atlantic Coast Conference, notably North Carolina, SMU, Wake Forest, and Pitt. Now, these teams are sitting on the bubble for very similar reasons. All 4 of them have not been dominant. They have been dominant against Quad 2, 3, and 4 teams, but they have struggled to beat their Quad 1 opponents. It is possible that these 4 teams end up on the outside looking in. Now, the ACC as a whole has been underwhelming this year, but there is a possibility for that to get even worse. Of course, we saw Wake Forest sitting on the bubble. Now, looking here, this is a graph of the last 10 tournaments, And as we see the ACC here in red, peaking here, getting late into the 2010s, and they have been on a recent trend downward, only matching the Big East. But the ACC does have 3 teams who are pretty solidified in the field with Duke, Clemson, and Louisville. Clemson seemed to have sealed their spot to tango in March with a big win over Duke. As for Louisville, they are projected to be a 7 seed, and they too have most likely sealed a spot in the dance as they have a calm stretch of opponents here in the final stand of the campaign. In good news for the conference, Duke joins 3 SEC schools as a 1 seed in their respective region. The Blue Devils have undoubtedly been the best team in the ACC so far, with star freshman Cooper Flagg leading the way. And of course, we have Tennessee, Auburn, and Alabama in the SEC. They're going to be on the 1 lines right here. Auburn looks like the best team in the country. Bruce Pearl has his squad running an amazing airtight ship. But something to keep an eye on is how the SEC as a whole is looking to claim 13 tournament spots, which would break the record held by the Big East in 2011 with 11 teams. Now let's head over to the women's tournament. The ACC is near the top of all conferences with 9 teams projected to be in the field. Only the Big Ten and SEC have more. At the moment, Charlie Cream has Virginia Tech sitting in the last 4 in, and they are estimated to play the Princeton Tigers for the 11th seed in Region 1, which will take place in Fort Worth, Texas. With 14 Big Ten teams getting the last byes, there is a possibility for some slip-ups that could pave a path for the Hokies to gain a better seed. A good end to this regular season, a solid outing in the ACC tournament, could catapult the Hokies from the bubble into a solidified spot. A great slate of games over the weekend could change the estimations for each bracket. But as March is always madness, February is always a frenzy. Back to you guys.
Great stuff as always, Thomas. But enough about the past, and let's switch from the rearview mirror to the front windshield, because we got to look ahead at this Virginia Tech's women's hoop schedule. Of course, they're on the bubble, like Thomas mentioned, and they're actually the last 4 in, according to bracketology, this morning. So let's take a look ahead at this schedule for Virginia Tech. It's Stanford, then it's Cal, then it's Boston College, then it's Clemson. Landon, how do you see this Hokies team faring down the stretch?
I mean, I see 3 wins.
Yeah.
I see at least 3 wins. Stanford, Boston College, and Clemson are all kind of bottom of the barrel, bottom half in the ACC. Cal was ranked. I think they're receiving votes now, or they're not ranked anymore. That is still a tournament resume building win if they can pick it up. So I see 3 wins, maybe 4, and really boosting the resume, honestly. They've got a cakewalk.
Yeah, well, them being last 4 in now, and then if they can close out the season with 4 straight wins, that would be huge, and that momentum would mean everything, of course, carrying into not only the ACC tournament, but carrying into March as well. But this women's basketball team isn't the only women's sports team on campus making their mark, as the Hokie softball team is off and rolling. They're ranked 18th nationally in the preseason, and yeah, the start of their season has been absolutely electric.
5-0, and they didn't concede a single run. I'm going to run you through the scores real quick. 12-0 versus Fordham in 6 innings. 8-0 and 9-0 against North Dakota State, both in 5 innings. And then the domination against the College of Charleston, 11-0 and 10-0, both in 5 innings. Now, how rare is an immaculate inning? Because pitcher Emma Lemley did that. Odds are 1 in 40,000. Now, what does that equate to, Robbie? It's like winning a major league lottery draw twice in a row, being struck by lightning twice in a single day, or having the same birthday down to the second as somebody else. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And if I'm Emma Lemley, I'm playing the lottery. I'm getting a ticket right now because it's been an absolutely unreal start for this softball team. Not just her. They've been absolutely making some loud noise early. And if this team, you got to think, could maybe be the one to finally break the glass ceiling in Blacksburg. I don't want to jinx it, but we could be talking national championship maybe if they can pick up some big wins as they have this weekend.
Yeah, those words have been said so many times. Yeah. Can this team be the one to bring a national championship to Blacksburg? But that is the begging question. And for more on that and for more on a huge weekend in Baton Rouge, here's our own Sophie Anderson.
As college basketball dominates headlines and March Madness looms on the horizon, another season is quietly unfolding. This one on the diamond rather than the hardwood. The cleats in the dirt and the sounds of aluminum bats have begun to echo through Tech Softball Park, where the Hokies have been gearing up for battle. Last weekend marked the opening of college softball. In Virginia Tech, the goal is simple: win the Women's College World Series. Now, you might say, isn't that every team's goal? Every year, every program aspires to hoist the trophy in Oklahoma City, but few have what it takes to make it there. The Hokies have the talent. They were ranked number 18 in ESPN's preseason poll, but for the past 2 years, they've fallen short of expectations, losing in the regionals. This year, the difference isn't on the stat sheet. It's in the team's mindset. It's what seniors Emma Limley and Corey McMillan stressed in their preseason interviews: believing you can win in the big moments and taking the game one pitch and hit at a time. It may sound cliche, but with Limley and McMillan at the helm, every member of this Hokie softball team is buying into the goal like it's the gospel. Limley put their mindset into 4 words: kill or be killed. Strong words, but through the first weekend of play, the Hokies have practiced what they preached. It's in the name of a 5-0 record. The offense has been great, but the real story, the pitching, which has simply been show-stopping. 5 games, 5 shutouts. No opposing team has scored a single run. In fact, Virginia Tech is the only team in the country with no runs given up after opening weekend. Leading the charge is Limley. 11 innings pitched and 22 strikeouts over the course of 5 games, and that's not even her most impressive stat line. Against Charleston, she recorded a perfect game, something that is so rare that makes her only the 6th player in program history to achieve it. What does a perfect game mean? No walks, no hits, no errors. Nobody from the opposing team even makes it on base. The Hokie faithful have grown to expect excellence out of their veteran pitcher, but her level of dominance so far is nothing short of legendary. While the good times have been rolling, the true test comes now. This weekend, Virginia Tech faces its biggest challenge yet, a showdown in Baton Rouge against number 7 LSU. The competition gets tougher, the lights get brighter, and for the Hokies, the road to Oklahoma begins here. Guys.
Fabulous report, Sophie. And with that, a lot of action coming up for Virginia Tech on the docket this week. A huge women's basketball game against Stanford with tournament implications, a blockbuster rivalry in Blacksburg against UVA, and a big series in Baton Rouge against the number 7 LSU Tigers in softball. Robbie, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking all Virginia Tech this weekend
Yep.
and next week. First of all, in that softball game, Virginia Tech LSU, why not Virginia Tech? Why can't they do it? Why can't they go down to Baton Rouge, take down the Tigers? I think Emma Lemley, she's in another planet right now. She's otherworldly. I just think it's going to be Virginia Tech. And then in terms of basketball, I think Virginia Tech takes on 2 lower tier opponents in both women's and men's. I think against UVA, they complete the sweep. And I think on Thursday night in Castle Coliseum, they keep the bubble hopes alive, and they take down the Stanford Cardinals, who are in danger of missing the tournament for the first time in a while.
Yeah, that would be great to see. You'd think that they would pick up a win against a lesser opponent after last time out against Syracuse. They weren't able to, but that's going to do it here in the Moss Arts Center. We want to thank our reporters Hayden Tolbert, Tucker Terry, Thomas Hallett, and Sophie Anderson. For Robbie Ackerly and myself, Landon Weaver, we will see you guys next week.